Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 7 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on. And Week 6, my friends, was the best week of the season. And actually, if you close your eyes and listen, off in the distance, you may hear a little noise. What is that? Is that the victory song? 10 wins. That means victory.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me.
Only 14 games on the slate. Didn't matter. Still got double-digit wins.
In your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. Lips as sweet as candy.
10-4 plus 5.11 units. Did we stumble out of the gate this season? Yes, but there's nothing I love more than a little adversity, and we have fought back 3 straight profitable weeks. That brings our season-to-date record back into the green, and back into the green by a good portion. 49, 42, and 1 plus 4.47 units on the year after a fantastic Week 6. Once again, 10-4 plus 5.11 units. And not only that, I have given you a few weeks, my friends, where I give you my 5 best bets, and those best bets have gone 0-5. I'd made up for it the best I could this past week. The 5 best bets I gave out on the show, winner, 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 winner. 5-0 Texans, cash. Colts, Titans under, cash. Commanders, Ravens, cash. Falcons, cash. Bills minus 2.5, cash. 5-0 best bets, 10-4 overall. Teaser hit 2 is a little treat on top. Texans minus 1 against Patriots. Falcons pick 'em against Panthers. That was an easy winner. Nothing but winners last week on the show. That was my gift to you for missing the player prop countdown. I did not have a player prop countdown episode last week. I ended up getting sick, and I had to get ready to leave to go back to Canada for a wedding this past weekend. So I couldn't. I was in bed sick trying to get better on Wednesday night when I normally record. So I did not do a podcast version of the player prop countdown. I did still write the article the next morning. I did tweet that out. So if you're not following me on Twitter, be sure to do that at Iain MacBets. I tweeted that out with my 10 player props. So I still gave you the picks, but I did not have a podcast version of it. But when it comes to the road to 272, we went 10-4. Listen, every time I have a bad week, I come on here and say I had some bad breaks. I had some good breaks this week. Bills were certainly one of them. On Monday night, the Jets missed a couple of field goals. Washington scored a field goal late, ended up kicking a field goal to go over with the Ravens and Commanders. It was a 2-score game. Instead of trying to go for a touchdown, they kicked the field goal, which hit the over 52.5 there. Yeah, I got some luck. And all that was after losing Thursday night. So I started 0-1 and then went on a 10-3 run to close out the week. So great week. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch any of the games. Tonight, the Bills-Jets game was actually the first game that I was able to watch. I was flying on Thursday, and then I was at a wedding all weekend, and then doing family stuff, celebrating my nephew's birthday on Sunday. So I actually did not watch a snap of football on Sunday. Didn't watch Thursday night. Didn't watch till Monday night. But I've stayed in touch with kind of what's happened. I've seen what's happened. I've looked at the metrics from this past weekend. I've locked in my bets for Week 7. Only 2 teams have a bye in Week 7. I think it's the Bears and the Cowboys. So we're back up to 15 games for Week 7, including another Monday Night Football doubleheader. I don't know why the Chiefs and the 49ers aren't Sunday Night Football this week. Instead, we have the Jets and the Steelers. Who cares? I'm sick of seeing Aaron Rodgers on prime time. Don't care about him. But we will give you a pick for every single game once again this week. And this week, I will have a podcast version unless something crazy happens of the player prop countdown later in the week. Yeah, but that's it. Let's get into it. It is the NFL Week 7 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on. Let's go.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, let's get things started off. As always, Thursday Night Football. It is the Sean Payton revenge game, I guess. The Broncos taking on the New Orleans Saints. And I will jump all over, surprise, surprise, once again, the Denver Broncos, who I did take as my underdog pick last week, one of the 4 picks that I lost. They are not underdogs this week. They're favored by 1.5 points at minus 105. That is where I'm going to go against the New Orleans Saints. Spencer Rattler, I assume. Not assume. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's starting this week for the Saints on a short week. With Derek Carr probably going to miss till another couple of weeks for the Saints. Listen, Spencer Rattler looked pretty good in his first game despite losing to the Bucs. That kind of loss was certainly more on the defense than the offense. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if Spencer Rattler turns out to be a half-decent quarterback in the NFL. But now he's on a short week against one of the best defenses in the NFL. This is going to be a nightmare matchup for a rookie quarterback making his second career start on a short week. Now, obviously, he's going to be tough to trust the Broncos offense. Bo Nix, I don't know if he's been good or not. I mean, he's kind of putting up some decent numbers, but then if you look at like EPA plus CPOE composite, he's like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So I don't know. I haven't watched enough Broncos games from start to finish to really get a feel for it. But at the end of the day, the Broncos offense might only need to score 2 touchdowns, 14 points, 17 points to win and cover in this game. And the Saints, by the way, not good statistically. This meltdown by the Saints after the first 2 weeks of the season has not just been some bad luck. Their metrics and stats have been horrific lately. In fact, over each team's last 3 games, they're dead last in the NFL in net yards per play. So obviously, and I always say this, net yards per play isn't the be-all, end-all, but it's not good that over the last 3 weeks, they are dead last in net yards per play. Worse than the Patriots, worse than the Browns, worse than any other team. Dead last is dead last. Not a good sign for the New Orleans Saints. Their defense has been horrific. And now you're starting a rookie quarterback on a short week. I think the Broncos are going to get the job done here. I will bet on them once again for, I think, the 7th straight week. I might just end up riding the Broncos every single week this season. We'll see. But I'll take the Broncos on Thursday Night Football in what's probably going to be a pretty ugly game. Minus 1.5. Minus 105. I thought most Thursday Night Football games were divisional games. This one's not even a conference game. This is an inter-conference game. Well, it is what it is. I will take the Broncos on Thursday night. Moving on to Sunday's games, and we're back in London. I think this is the last London game, and then there is a game in Germany as well. I don't remember exactly when the Germany game is, but I believe this is the last London game. It is the Patriots against the Jaguars. It's only going to be outdone by the Germany game, which I believe is the Panthers and the Giants. So this game is ugly. I don't really. It's hard to figure out the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't really know what to do with them. I bet against them last week, rightfully so. I actually saw that the line flipped over to the Jaguars closed as favorites. I don't know why, and I saw people confused why the Jaguars weren't favorites to begin with. Their defense is horrific. So because of that, I'm actually going to take the over. I'm going to go Patriots Jaguars over 43 minus 110 in London on Sunday morning. The Jaguars offense, not great, certainly not an elite offense, but they are doing enough to kind of get the job done. They rank, middle of the pack in a lot of different areas. 15th in yards per play. I mean, definition of middle of the pack. But their defense, 30th in opponent yards per play, giving up 6 yards per snap. 31st in opponent points per game. They're giving up 29.7 points per game. They're dead last in opponent EPA per play. Their defense is horrific. So it is hard for me to lay, what are they, 5.5 point favorites on a team that is that bad on one side of the football, which is going to be a consistent theme throughout this week. By the way, talking about themes, I nailed that favorites were going to do well last week. I said that during last week's episode. And only 2 underdogs won outright last week. I think the Bears, because they ended up closing as an underdog, and the other one was the Colts. And then one other underdog covered, the Browns. So underdogs only cover the spread 3 times last week. So kind of nailed it, and that's why I did well with my picks last week. My theme for this week is I don't want to lay a ton of points on teams that have like a really strong weakness on one of the 2 sides of the football. Or flip side of that, I want to take a lot when a team's getting a lot of points but are very strong on one side of the football. I'll take a lot of points. It'll make sense kind of as the week goes on here. In this case, for the Jaguars, I'm going to go total instead because I don't want to lay 5 points on a team with this bad of a defense. I don't necessarily want to bet against the Jaguars either because it is the Patriots, and I don't really know what we're going to get from Drake May, who, to be fair, even though they did kind of get their asses kicked from the Texans, at least his stat line, once again, was not able to watch Sunday's action, but his stat line looked like it gave the Patriots a little bit more offensive life than what they had with Jacoby Brissett. I believe he already matched Jacoby's touchdown pass total this season. So if he can have a good game against any team, it's going to be the Jaguars defense. So pretty low total here, and I'll go over 43. Also worth noting, the Patriots secondary is not good either. So I think Trevor Lawrence also might have a pretty solid game. So I'll go Patriots, Jaguars over 43 minus 110. We're going to go with another total bet here. It is going to be Dolphins Colts. I feel like I've made this bet in a lot of Colts games this season. I'm going to keep making this bet. It is under 43.5 between the Dolphins and the Colts. I bet the under last week in the Colts game. It hit. I know I've done it at least one other time this season, if not 2 other times. I just don't know why like Colts games, especially now they're playing against the Dolphins, don't have totals in the high 30s. All reports are saying that the Colts expect Anthony Richardson is going to play this week instead of Joe Flacco, which is stupid, but at the same time, it does kind of make sense. You got to develop your rookie quarterback. But that leads me to think this is going to be a low-scoring game because amongst all quarterbacks who have played at least 60 snaps this season, Tyler Huntley and Anthony Richardson rank 34th and 35th out of 36. So 36 quarterbacks in the NFL have played 60 or more snaps. Tyler Huntley, the Dolphins starting quarterback, and Anthony Richardson, the Colts starting quarterback, ranks second last and third last in EPA plus CPOE composite, which is EPA and then CPOE completion percentage over expected. EPA, expected points added. That's kind of the best stat I look for when trying to evaluate quarterbacks. And yeah, 34th and 35th. Can you guys guess who ranks dead last in that stat amongst all quarterbacks who played 60 snaps? If you guessed Bryce Young, you'd be correct. Wow. Tough for Bryce Young. So, I mean, listen, we got a game between 2 teams who are starting 2 of the worst quarterbacks statistically this season. That makes me think it's going to be low scoring. Well, we're going to see a high-scoring game with 2 terrible quarterbacks. Unless they get the run game going and they both rush for 250 yards, I can't see 44 points being scored in this game. So I'll go under 43.5 Dolphins Colts on Sunday afternoon. Lions Vikings. I'm still trying to figure out how good this Vikings team is. There's certainly no denying that what they've done this season is impressive, and they are certainly worth being looked at as a playoff team. I'm not saying they're going to collapse to the point where they're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs for sure. But should we be looking at the Vikings now as like a top 3 team in the NFC, a top 2 team in the NFC? I mean, right now, the Vikings this week are 2-point favorites at home to the Lions, which tells me on a neutral field, you'd have the Vikings as a pick'em against the Lions, who a lot of people think the Lions are the best team in the NFC, if not the best team, the number 2 team in the NFC. I mean, according to sportsbooks, it's the 49ers number 1. It's the Lions and Vikings tied for number 2 in the NFC. I don't know if a 5-game sample size is good enough yet for me to say that about the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to call them frauds because their stats and metrics are actually pretty good. Actually, their offensive metrics are actually average. 15th in the NFL in yards per play, 14th in EPA per play. But their defense has been by far the best defensive unit statistically in the NFL this season. Leading in at least an opponent EPA per play, they're first in the NFL. And it's not just stopping the run or stopping the pass. They're first in dropback EPA and third in rush EPA. So their defense can stop the run. They can stop the pass. They can rush the passer. Their offense is kind of average. Like I said, 15th, 14th, 16th in a lot of different areas. So are they good enough offensively to be able to hang with the Detroit Lions? Have they done enough through 5 weeks? Because don't forget they were on bye last week. Have they done enough in 5 weeks to make them as a pick'em and a neutral site, aka their 2-point favorites at home to the Detroit Lions? I don't think so. So I'm going to take the Lions +2. And I don't want Vikings fans mad at me here because I'm not saying they're frauds. They will. My first edition of the fraud rankings, they will not be on it. But I'm just not ready to say they're just as good as the Detroit Lions. And I don't think that's I don't think that's unreasonable. Detroit Lions have played at a high level for a much larger sample size of games. Their offense starting to kind of fire on all cylinders. Their defense is better. I know Aiden Hutchinson's out now, which is going to hurt them, but still, I'm not ready to put the Vikings quite at that level yet. I need to see some more games from them. So I will take Lions +2, -110 against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday in Week 7. Moving on, Titans, Bills. Yes, I do have the Bills and Jets games already handicapped. My picks are in for them. So let's start with Titans Bills. I believe Jets Steelers is Sunday night. So Titans Bills, and I will take, and this kind of goes with my theme, the points with the Titans +8.5. Is the Titans offense bad? Absolutely. Probably a bottom 5 offense in the NFL, but their defense might just be the least talked about and most underrated unit in the entire NFL this season. It feels like I'm the only one on a weekly basis who is giving the Titans defense the praise they deserve. They lead the NFL in opponent success rate. They lead the NFL in fewest yards per play allowed, giving up just 4.3 yards per play. They have been on some bad luck from Will Levis, giving up some of the worst turnovers I've ever seen in the NFL. He has single-handedly not only not won them games, but actually handed wins to other teams more than once this season. But now we're talking about an 8.5 point spread. I mean, the Bills might have to shut the Titans out for them to cover this spread. I don't see the Bills putting up a ton of points against the Titans, especially because we've seen in the past now, especially a handful of times this season, if the Bills either get into a negative game script or if they can't run the football effectively, they run into some trouble. They still don't have much receiver talent. Josh Allen has been doing the best he can with the talent he has around him. But if a team can stop the Bills' rush attack, which the Jets weren't really able to do on Monday, they did at the start of the second half for a little bit. But if a team can't stop if a team can stop the Bills' rush attack, things get squirrely for Buffalo. And the Titans certainly can stop the Bills' rush attack, and they can certainly shut down this receiving core as well. So I was kind of shocked to see the spread is this big for the Titans and Bills. There's no way I'd be laying 8.5 points on a team going up against a defense as good as the Tennessee Titans. So I'll take the Titans +8.5 in this one, -110 against the Buffalo Bills. Moving on to the Bengals and the Browns. Last week I said I'm done betting on the Browns as long as Deshaun Watson is their quarterback. That did not work for me this past week, but to be fair, I thought the Eagles deserved to cover that game. They dominated the Browns for the most part. It just a couple, that was, I can't have every game go my way. The blocked field goal return for a touchdown was kind of the difference between them covering and not. Not complaining. All I'm saying is that game didn't convince me to start betting on the Browns again. So I'll take the Bengals -4.5. Second straight week I'm betting on the Bengals. How? Wow. What a world. Deshaun Watson, adjusted EPA per play, 35th amongst NFL starting quarterbacks. Only Bryce Young is worse. If you do look at CPOE plus EPA composite, he's actually not as bad as I would have thought. Let me bring that up really quick. He's 32nd. Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Tyler Huntley, and unfortunately Bo Nix are the only quarterbacks worse than Deshaun Watson in EPA plus CPOE composite. I saw a third down stat about the Browns. Dead last on third down conversion percentage, converting just 19.23% of third downs. Listen, the Bengals defense may be bad, but the Browns offense has already played some bad defenses and still weren't able to score. Let's bring up the Browns here. Only 13 points against the Commanders. Not good. 16 points against a not great Eagles defense. Not good. Only 18 points against the Jaguars defense. Holy moly. Yeah, so I'm not going to bet on I would be careful betting on the Browns just because they're playing a bad defense this week. They've already played bad defense after bad defense, and they still can't find any level of momentum, can't produce at any level. And now they're facing a pretty strong offense in the Bengals who are going to be able to put up points. So I can't envision the Browns being able to keep pace with the Bengals. I will take the Bengals -4.5 in the AFC North showdown. Texans and Packers. I'm gonna ride with the Packers here. Packers -3 at even money. I am not convinced yet about the Houston Texans. Relatively easy schedule. They're 4-1. They have got the job done for the most part. But we're talking about games against the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Colts, a Bears team that, hadn't quite got rolling offensively yet. A good win against the Bills. It did come down to kind of the last field goal, but I do think they outplayed the Bills in that game. But despite that schedule and some easy defenses there, Patriots can be had through the air. The Jaguars defense sucks. The Colts defense isn't that good. 16th in the NFL in EPA per play. Defense is only 10th in opponent EPA per play. Like, all their metrics are like good but not great. So I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not bought in on the Texans yet. Not completely bought in on the Houston Texans yet. Green Bay outranks them in just about every single metric. Green Bay is also at home this week. Jordan Love has clearly found his stride since returning from his injury. I think Matt LaFleur has done a great job with his coaching this season. So certainly not one of my more confident plays this week. This will not be one of my best bets, but I am going to lay the points to the Packers against a Texans team I'm just not fully bought in yet. I'm going to sell a little Houston stock this week. Packers -3. Seahawks and Falcons. I've bet on the Falcons every single week this season except for one. That was against the Chiefs. I've actually done a pretty good job betting Falcons games this season. I think have I won every week betting on the Falcons? No, I bet on them week 1 and they lost. I'm going to bet against them this week. I'm not going to take Seahawks money line, but I will take the 3 points of the Seattle Seahawks. This is a buy low spot on Seattle, I think. I think the Seahawks aren't as good as they looked the first 3 weeks of the season, but I think they're not as bad as they looked the last 3 weeks. And it's also a little bit of a sell high spot on Atlanta. Obviously, 3 huge, massive wins against NFC South opponents, especially as a Falcons fan. I love it. But this is a little bit of a tricky spot. This is a Seattle team that's very deep offensively, especially at receiver. This is Geno Smith, who has had a pretty good year. The Falcons' defense has some issues. What I've actually been most impressed with their defense is their ability to make adjustments at halftime. They have come out and kind of shut down their opponent in the second half more often than not this season, especially the past 2 weeks. But 31st in the NFL in opponent third down conversion rate. Teams are converting 48.1% of third downs against them. That's not good. That's got to be fixed. And I just think Seattle's offense is going to be able to keep pace. I do think the Falcons are the rightful favorites, especially at home in this spot. But with the spread being a field goal, I don't feel comfortable laying those points. And what I think, we got a nice comfortable win this past week against the Panthers, and I'm glad they did that on a day that I couldn't watch. But I think we're going to see another uncomfortable game. I think this is going to be another Falcons game that's going to come down to the wire. So I would feel more comfortable as an objective bettor that can put aside my bias. I think I'm going to feel better taking the Seahawks with the 3 points. I did consider them taking them outright, but I guess Falcons kind of win close games now, which is crazy to say. All right, that is, we're 8 picks down, 7 to go, so we're about halfway through here. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back with the rest of my picks for NFL Week 7. All right, let's keep things rolling. NFC East battle, Eagles and Giants. Another total bet, another underplay for me in this one. Eagles-Giants under 43.5, -110. Philadelphia, another team that I don't, actually the Giants too, for that matter, that I don't feel confident about my evaluation about either of these teams. I think the Eagles are a team that might be underperforming. I think the Giants might be overperforming, which did make me kind of lean the Eagles in terms of the spread. But the X factor for the Giants that we need to consider every time we bet on a game involving the Giants is their pass rush. Leading the NFL in sack percentage, bring down opposing quarterbacks on 12.32% of their dropbacks. And that's now going to be tough against an Eagles offensive line that has not performed well this season. They allow a pressure rate of 22.5%. Jalen Hurts has been sacked 2.8 times per game. So it's hard to lay points on a team that I think is going to have issues protecting their quarterback. Also, the Eagles defense has stepped up big the past few weeks after a really slow start to the season. Obviously, shut down the Saints there before their bye, shut down the Browns this past week. So I do think the Eagles have figured some things out defensively, and I do think the Giants have been better defensively than offensively this season. Obviously, they have their pass rush, but I mean, they just came off a performance where they largely shut down the Cincinnati Bengals, who are one of the best offenses in the NFL. So I think this is actually sneakily going to be a bit of a strong defensive performance for both teams in this one. And also, it is worth noting, one of my favorite stats to look at when betting on totals in the NFL is red zone efficiency, because if red zone trips result in field goals instead of touchdowns, that is going to be a good way to cash in under bets. And these two teams are tied for 25th in the NFL in red zone touchdown scoring percentage, scoring a touchdown on just 44.44% of their red zone trips. So if this is a field goal fest, we should feel pretty comfortable taking the under. I'll take Eagles Giants under 43.5. Carolina Panthers, this is another one that follows my theme this week, and it is has to do with the Commanders. I'm glad I didn't bet on them last week, because that would have been a stinger of a bet to lose. Missing the cover by half a point there. This bet's going to be ugly. Give me the Panthers plus 7.5, and it's because for me to lay a touchdown or more, I should revise that. For me to lay more than a touchdown on a team, and 7.5 is more than a touchdown, I need them to be significantly better, or at least decently better, on both sides of the football than the team they're playing against. That is not the case in this game. Yes, obviously the Commanders' offense is way better than the Panthers' offense. I don't need to say that. That goes without saying. But the Commanders' defense is not, and actually not, in some areas, they're straight up not better than the Panthers' defense. If you look at opponent EPA per play, Washington ranks 29th in opponent EPA per play. Commanders rank 29th, Panthers rank 30th, so only one spot better in opponent EPA, and the Panthers actually allow fewer yards per play than the Commanders, 5.9 compared to 6.0. So these two defenses are actually extremely comparable. Some would say in a lot of metrics they're right next to each other, so they're kind of the exact same defense. The offense being better is not enough for me to want to lay over a touchdown worth of points. I mean, the Panthers' offense has certainly stumbled recently, but they have actually kind of found a way to run the ball. They're sneakily a top 10 running team in the NFL right now, 9th in yards per carry. And now they get to face a Commanders' run defense that has allowed 5 yards per carry, the 4th highest rate in the NFL. So I actually think the Panthers are going to be able to run the ball pretty effectively in this game. And I think they can keep this closer than a lot of people might think. So I will take the Panthers plus 7.5, minus 110. It is an ugly bet, but the Panthers got to cover some spreads here at some point. Next up, we got the underdog of the week, the upset of the week. I'm going to take it plus 205 against the LA Rams, who are coming off a bye. Yes, they are coming off the bye, but the Rams are still being evaluated by the betting market, in my opinion, as if they're a much better team than they are. So I'm going to take a shot betting against them with a 2-1 underdog, plus 205 underdog on the Raiders here in the spot. Rams are coming off a bye, still got a lot of injury issues. Puka Nacua won't be back this week. Steve Avila won't be back this week. Joe Noteboom is still questionable. I think they're deciding whether or not they wanted to open his practice window this week, but if they're just going to open his practice window, he's probably not going to play this week. So they still remain one of, if not the most banged up team in the NFL. So that does not give me confidence in them. They're also 30th in the NFL in net yards per play, 17th in EPA per play, 31st in opponent EPA per play. No matter which way you look at it, although I guess the Rams are a little bit better offensively. But overall, as a team, in my opinion, the Raiders have been the better football team this season. Believe it or not. I know it doesn't seem that way. I think the Raiders have lost a couple games that they kind of let it, get away from them. A -3 turnover differential against the Steelers last week killed them. But I do actually think the Raiders have been the better football team overall this season. I think they get to play against a banged-up Rams team, and I think they're worth taking a shot here at plus 205. That is my upset pick of the week. Game of the week here, a Super Bowl rematch. I have no idea why this is not on Sunday Night Football. If someone can explain it to me, I'm sure there's got to be a reason for it. But Super Bowl rematch, listen, I bet on the 49ers in the Super Bowl last year. Did not win, obviously. I'll take the 49ers again. -1, -110 against the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the bigger advantages the Chiefs would have in this game is the fact that they're coming off a bye. I know Andy Reid has been historically very good off a bye week. But the 49ers played on Thursday Night Football. This is actually a little bit of a mini bye week of their own. And I know the Chiefs, they're undefeated. Credit to them. But they have not played nearly as well as their record indicates. 10th in the NFL in net yards per play. 10th in EPA per play. 12th in opponent EPA per play. They're not playing poorly, but they're not playing like the elite team you would come to expect them to play like so far this season. And the 49ers did stumble at times to start the year, but they have certainly found their stride. They now rank 3rd in the NFL in net yards per play, 1st in the NFL by a significant margin in net yards per play over each team's last 3 games. Extremely impressive win on Thursday night against the Seahawks. The 49ers now, I think, and it might even be too late, but if you haven't yet, I think it's time to invest a little bit here in the San Francisco 49ers. And the way the Chiefs have been playing, no way they can continue to get away with winning games. So I will take the 49ers -1. Is this me being insane? Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. I'm once again betting on the 49ers to beat the Chiefs. We'll see if it works. I'll go 49ers -1. Which brings me to Sunday Night Football. Can they flex it? Is it too late to flex? It is Jets-Steelers. I actually think the Jets were underdogs until Monday night, and then they lost and then became a 1-point favorite, I think. I'll still take the Jets, -1. I don't think there's been any team that I've bet on less than the Pittsburgh Steelers over the past number of years. They continue to find ways to win games that they don't. This past week against the Steelers, against the Raiders, not the Steelers didn't deserve to win, but it should have been a much closer game than the final score indicated. -3, it's Steelers, either turnovers go their way, and that was the case this past week, or penalties go their way, or Mike Tomlin is just the greatest coach of all time. I don't know what it is, but Pittsburgh managed to squeak that one out. I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to do that again against the Jets. The Jets offense is going to get rolling. We saw flashes of it against the Bills. Listen, 2 missed field goals. I think that was actually sneakily the best offensive game the Jets have played this season, the best Aaron Rodgers game that he's played this season, probably outside the Patriots game, but they're not a real NFL team. And now they get to play a Steelers team that's 20th in the NFL in net yards per play. Pittsburgh's offense ranks in the bottom half in almost every single metric. They're 25th in yards per play, averaging just 4.8 yards per snap. It's time for the Jets to kind of wake up and get a big win, and I think they do that on Sunday night against the Steelers. Steelers, once again, I think are just overvalued in the betting market. And I might be wrong, but I'm going Jets. Ravens, Buccaneers. This is the first of 2 games on Monday Night Football. Usually the Monday Night Football doubleheader is the first game is like an earlier start, and the second game is what a primetime game usually starts at. Not the case this week for some reason. It's the first game is the normal time, and then the second game starts at like 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be up late, my friends. Especially me recording this podcast. Next Monday night's going to be a late one. Going to have to take a little Monday afternoon nap. For this one, I will take Tampa Bay plus 3.5 at home. I think stylistically this is basically as much of a nightmarish matchup as you could get for the Ravens. Ravens have been very, very good, no doubt about it. But what I've noticed about the Ravens, and I've brought this up the past few weeks now, is they have the best run defense in the NFL, but their secondary leaves a lot to be desired, to say the least. They allow 7.5 yards per pass attempt. That's 26th in the NFL. They also rank 27th in opponent dropback EPA, 23rd in opponent dropback success rate. They are bottom 10, if not bottom 5, secondary in the NFL this season. So a nightmare team for them to play would be a team that doesn't really care about running the football, is not really good at it anyways, but extremely efficient at throwing the football. And that is what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. They can't really run the football that well, although they've been a little bit more live with Bucky Irving, but they can obviously throw the ball extremely well. Baker Mayfield's having the best season of his career. They rank inside the top 10, top 5 in most statistics, including first in drop back success rate, and now they get to take on a pretty weak secondary in the Baltimore Ravens. The Buccaneers have also done a good job at shutting down the run against teams that they expected were going to be run first, like the Falcons. They shut down the Falcons run game. If they can shut down the Ravens run game, they might not even just cover in this game. I wouldn't actually be shocked if the Buccaneers win this game outright on Monday Night Football. So I like Tampa Bay plus 3.5 in this one. I do just think the stylistic matchup works in their favor, and we're getting more than a field goal with them. So I'll take Tampa Bay plus 3.5. Which leaves me with the final game of the week. It is the Chargers. It is the Cardinals. And I think what might be for the first time this season, I'll take the Chargers. I will bet on the Chargers this week. Minus 2.5 at minus 118. They have had a stretch against some pretty great defenses. They played the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. Now their offense gets to have a breakout game. I think this is the game where we look at the Chargers and we go, ooh, that might be a playoff team. They get to play against a very weak defense in the Arizona Cardinals, while themselves having sneakily one of the better defenses in the NFL. No team has actually scored more than 20 points against the Chargers this season. They've allowed just an average of 13.2 points per game. That is the best mark in the NFL. They're also 4th in opponent yards per play, 2nd in opponent EPA per play, 3rd in opponent success rate. Jim Harbaugh has instantly transformed this Chargers team, and now they got Joe Alt back and Rashawn Slater back. So their offensive line's healthy. Their offense is going to get better as the season goes on. I think their defense can shut down the Cardinals, and I think this is going to be a big game for Justin Herbert. I think this is going to be the game that Justin Herbert reminds everyone who he is. So I love this play. I'll take Chargers minus 2.5, minus 118 in the second half of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. There you have it. I'll just recap the plays as always and then give you my 5 best bets, my teaser of the week. I'm not going to talk Survivor. If you're still alive, best of luck. I've been out now for a couple weeks. The Bacon Bets podcast Survivor pool is still alive. One guy took the Texans, the other took the Eagles, so they both survived. They both advanced to this week. Good luck to the two of you. I have no take for Survivor this week. If you're still alive in your Survivor pool, congratulations. You know better than me anyways. Keep doing what you're doing. If you really want my advice, send me a DM on Twitter and I'll see if I can help you out. Okay, so picks for this week. I got Broncos minus 1.5, minus 105 against the Saints. Over 43 between the Patriots and Jaguars. Actually just going to bring this up on BetStamp so it's easier to read. Here we go. Titans plus 8.5, minus 112 against the Bills. Dolphins, Colts under 43.5. Lions plus 2 against the Vikings. Bengals minus 4.5, minus 108 against the Browns. Packers minus 3, even money against the Texans. Seahawks plus 3, minus 115 against the Falcons. Eagles, Giants under 43.5. Panthers, Commanders. Panthers plus 7.5. Raiders plus 205 on the money line against the Rams. 49ers minus 1 against the Chiefs. Jets minus 1, minus 115 against the Steelers. Buccaneers plus 3.5 against the Ravens, and the LA Chargers minus 2.5, minus 118 against the Cardinals. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 plays for 15 games for NFL Week 7. My best bets this week, I went 5-0 last week. Let's see if we can repeat that. I got Bengals minus 4.5 against the Browns. Seahawks plus 3 against the Falcons. Raiders for my best bet. I'll take spread, so plus 5.5 against Rams. Buccaneers plus 3.5 against Ravens. Chargers minus 2.5 against Cardinals. So I actually like both Monday Night Football picks in terms of amongst being my 5 best bets. And my teaser this week. We're going to take the Lions from 2.5. 2. I got them at 2. I don't know why I put 8.5. So 2 up to plus 8 against the Vikings. Raiders plus 5.5 up to plus 11.5 against the Rams. So Lions, obviously, Lions are going to be a great teaser leg this week because we're passing not only the key number of 3, but also the key number of 7. Not a ton of other great teaser leg this week, unless you want to be like if you want to take the Cardinals or if you want to, like the Chiefs. I mean, there are, I guess, in terms of my picks, not a lot of great teaser legs. So I took the Raiders from 5.5 up to 11.5. It does cross the key number of 7, crosses the secondary key numbers of 6 and 10. And I think the Raiders, obviously, if I think they can beat the Rams outright, then I obviously think they can cover an 11.5 point spread. So there you have it. That has been the NFL Week 7 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if I helped you win money, especially this past week with my picks. Please subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. I will be back this week. I don't promise you because, what happens if I die? Then I can't record a podcast, but I will be back. Do my best to be back for the player prop countdown this week. I think I went 5-5 again with my player props, which is, it's getting kind of spooky how I've gone 5-5 every single week. One week I went 5-4-1 because Evan Ingram pulled out. If he played, it would have been a loss. 5-5 every single week this season with my player props. I did hit my touchdown score, Michael Wilson, though, so I did walk away profitable. Both player props and Road to 272 are now both profitable. What a world. Thank you all so much for listening. Gamble or bless. I'll talk to you Wednesday night, I guess. Thursday morning, that player prop countdown will be out. But for now, the road to 272 bets marches on.